Hey guys, before we get started today, I just would like to give a shout out to my Patreons. I'm not able to monetize YouTube yet. Close, but not quite there yet, so Patreon is the way to go if you want to support me. I'd also like to let you guys know that I just released 2 new singles, one of which came out earlier this month. The other one just came out today. Actually, at the time I released this, it might not be today still, but that's 2 singles out and about in the ether that you can go and enjoy right now. And yeah, I just wanted to get that out there and let you guys know and say thank you from the bottom of my heart and enjoy the video. All right, here we go. Today I want to talk about a plugin that I love so freaking much. What is this plugin? It's Pro Q3, baby. Rich Weller was right. In my more naive days of being a music producer, I mean, let's be real, I'm still super naive, but when I was more naive, younger, earlier on, the EQ that came with Ableton was perfect. I didn't see a reason to spend, $100+ on any EQ plugins. It just didn't make any sense to me. As far as I was concerned, all the EQ decisions that I wanted to make and needed to make, I was making just fine. And I was perfectly happy to keep using the Ableton EQ until I stumbled upon this video by Dan Worrell. What's wrong with stock plugins? What Dan did with this video is he took me by both of my ears and he pulled me in close and he screamed in my face that the Ableton EQ isn't very good. And he backs this up with irrefutable and clear-cut evidence. And he does this by comparing the Ableton EQ with Pro Q3. I wasn't necessarily bummed because being a bedroom producer, someone that produces all of their artwork within their bedroom, every week you learn something that kind of questions everything you knew up until that point, and it does happen just about every week. This TikTok embodies exactly what I'm talking about.
Wow, I'm finally good at mixing. Oh, I was terrible at mixing, but now I'm good. Oh, I've been bad the whole time, but now I'm good. What the fuck was I ever thinking? But now I'm good.
And even 3 years ago, I was still learning a shit ton of stuff on a weekly basis that, this didn't rock my world necessarily, but I had a decision to make. Do I continue to use this EQ that I've been using, that I haven't really had any issues with, that to me sounded fine? Do I keep using this EQ? Or do I spend a little chunk of change and drastically improve my EQ game/capabilities? And first of all, let me be clear, the EQ that comes with Ableton is a good EQ. Dan is not dragging it through the mud, right? He's just comparing it to a freakishly good EQ. And I won't rehash all of the points that he makes in this video. Go watch it yourself if you haven't. Even if you own Pro Q3, go check it out because 1, his voice is gorgeous. 2, he just kind of goes over a lot of the things that do make Pro Q3 fantastic and why it's a plugin worth celebrating so much. Now, if you will indulge me, I'd like to show you a few things that I like to do in the Pro Q3. So first thing to say is that anytime I create an audio track, you'll notice that Pro Q3 is already loaded up, whether it be a MIDI track or an audio track. So if I generate a MIDI track, you'll see it's a drum rack and then a Pro Q3. If we look at this break, right, so that might sound fine, but I'll always go to the analyzer here. If you hover around the bottom of the Pro Q3, you can start to see these spectrums that you can grab. You can literally just pull this down. We'll just make a couple bands this way really quick. And this is something I do all of the time. Okay, so let's A/B this a couple times. Sounds pretty different. Now let's enable auto gain and see how the difference sounds now. So without. So after I get kind of surgical with the EQ like this, I tend to put a saturator after it. And I will just dip 5 on the output and plus 5 on the drive. Kind of brings back some of its oomph. It introduces harmonics into the cleaned up signal. So if I A/B these, I mean, it basically sounds like Soothe. It sounds like that Soothe plugin. I don't have Soothe. I would use Soothe. I don't know if I need it though, because I've kind of gotten used to using Pro Q3. Now there's another scenario here. I'll leave this one how it is, and we will go over to this sample of the piano. This time I'm going to do things a little bit different. So if you just create a normal band, right, you double click and create a band this way. By holding Option and clicking up or down, we can make it dynamic. Which means that it has kind of a, it's kind of like a compressor, kind of like a multi-band compressor kind of deal. It's just reacting to the incoming volume. I guess that's the layman way of putting it. I don't honestly entirely know what it does. I just know the sound it makes, and I like it. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do that spectrum grab thing, but each time that I grab a spectrum and bring it down, I'm just going to hold on to Option and create these dynamic bands that move with the incoming audio. So there. And we'll just keep doing this a couple times. 5 or 6 times maybe. We're going to just chop all this. So let's A-B that. Well, also let's turn auto gain on. Some of these might be a little extreme. We'll do the same thing with the saturator. +5, -5. And now let's listen to how that sounds with the drums. I'm going to freeze and flatten both of these just so that the decisions that we have made are now baked in. And now here we go with another thing that I like about the Pro Q3, right? So we're going to call this one sample and this one drums, because that's what they are. We're going to put an EQ on the drums and a Pro Q3 on the sample. And down here where it says analyzer, we can check out the analyzer for the Pro Q3 drums here. And where it starts to highlight red is where the two EQs are clashing. So I can either pull that here from the sample EQ. So I can either reduce gain here on the sample, or I can go over to the drums and take it away from the drums to leave room for the sample. And I think in this case, I'm going to take it from the drums so that the sample can have the body. Another thing that you can do with the Pro Q3 on drums, you can create a bandpass filter where the kick drum is coming through, turn it into a bandpass filter, find a spot where the kick drum is really kind of capture the tonal excellence. Put a gate behind it. And then run it parallel with the chain. So that's without. And that's with. And now in a more extreme example, I'm going to pan the sample hard right and the drums hard left. So now we're getting this kind of ugly, super duper wide mix. And I'm going to throw the Pro Q3 on the master. And this isn't something that you can only do with Pro Q3. You could actually do this with Ableton's EQ, but Pro Q3 is really nice for mastering because not only do you have a stereo version, like this is the stereo EQ, you also have the left side EQ, only affecting the left. And then you also have a right option, only affecting the right. And then, of course, the stereo version that it sets you up with automatically. Then it has the mid, which is everything in the middle. Right? And when you combine these is when the magic happens. And then you have just the side. So all that's left is the mid if you take all that away. Well, one thing I like to do when I pan things hard left and right like this is I like to take a sideband and create a low cut. And I just trim everything below, let's say like, usually I'll do like 300 hertz. Everything below 300 hertz at 12 decibels per octave. I'll leave the Q at 1. Yeah. So I'll A-B this. If you're listening on a phone right now, you're probably not hearing the difference. If you're listening on headphones, I think you're definitely hearing the difference. If you're listening on studio monitors, you're hearing a difference. But what this does is it glues the bottom end, because down here, all of a sudden, this is all mono now. Just like if you swipe the whole thing, suddenly the hard panning that we're doing isn't so ugly anymore because it's just a mono track now. But if you only glue together that bottom end, up here is still all stereo. So yeah, just a nice thing to do on the master if a mix I'm working on has a super duper wide stereo image. But yeah, that was just a couple instances of how I like to use Pro Q3. The irony is that I had said I wasn't going to rehash everything that Dan Worrell said in that video, but those are all things I learned from Dan Worrell. A few of those things were in that video. Whatever. I got Dan Worrell fever. Love learning new things from his videos. Go check his stuff out. But yeah, this is just a small representation of kind of the larger picture of how I use Pro Q3. Every single song, every single track for the last 3 years, Pro Q3 is just littered all over the place in every single project. I'm constantly making surgical EQ moves and baking them into the tracks. And yeah, Pro Q3. It's lit. It's amazing. It's my favorite #1 plugin of all time. Okay, everybody, thank you for watching. Been extremely busy lately, but I had to take some time to talk about Pro Q3 because I've been working a lot lately, and it's just, it has my back. Pro Q3 really does have my back. Okay, please subscribe. See you guys later. Peace and love. See you next time. Comment me questions, and I'll make a video about your questions, okay? All right, bye.